Welcome back for another Rosenberg and Estes podcast, Inside R&E. My name is Adam Sanders. I'm a member of the firm's transactional department. I specialize in acquisition sales, financing, joint ventures, opportunity zones, and local law 97. My guests today are Lindsay Weiss and Alyssa Golub. They are entrepreneurs that opened Pine Polk, which is down on Spring Street. It's an artisanal retail shop focusing on West Coast influenced food and culinary offerings. It also has a secret cocktail bar with creative bespoke drinks and food behind a hidden door. Alyssa is from New Jersey, graduated from Cornell's esteemed School of Hotel Administration, and is a certified sommelier. She has worked at the Four Seasons Wailea as the food and beverage manager and for Michael Mina Restaurant Group in San Francisco. Lindsay has worked in event marketing for over 20 years, managing experimental programming, marketing strategy for brands, celebrity chefs, wineries, restaurants of all sizes, including planning culinary events for American Express, the James Beard Foundation, the New York Times, Auberge Resorts, CookUnity, and Lululemon, just to name a few. We are thrilled to have both of them today. So, hey, Lindsay. Hey, Alyssa.
Hello.
Okay, so before we get started, I do just want to, say that this is something a little different than I've done in the past, because it's not going to be 100% real estate focused, which most of our podcasts are. I'm fascinated by what you guys have created at Pine and Polk. I've been there, a few times, and I keep wanting to come back more and more. And I love the idea of the kind of secret speakeasy type cocktail bar as well.
Thank you.
Because I remember when you guys first came to me, I could have never imagined what you guys created. I was unable to visualize it, and it really looks amazing. So with that starting, I just want to start out right away and say, okay, how did you guys create this? Where did all this come from? Where did this kind of entrepreneurial endeavor and undertaking come from your backgrounds, from when you guys meet in San Francisco to come to New York and then do this? So
I'll give you a little bit of it. I'll let Alyssa jump in.
Why don't you take the lead?
Okay. Alyssa and I met in San Francisco probably about a decade ago at this point. We both come from, as you said, the industry, just kind of different parts of it. I come more from the experiential marketing, communications, events, that kind of thing. And Alyssa more the operations and tech, which I'll let her tell you a bit about. But we are left and right side of the brain, which I think makes us an interesting combo. And we've always talked about doing something. When we met in San Francisco, we spent a lot of time throwing dinner parties, going to farmers markets. We spent more time than we should admit in Napa. And we just kind of always were like, should we do something there? Should we do, something in San Francisco? What does it look like? And we were constantly brainstorming. This is the short version, and we can dive into more if you want to know more, but we both wound up back in New York in 2020 for personal reasons separately. And we, obviously 2020 was a weird time, and I think it got people thinking about, what am I doing? What do I want to do? And we just sort of started brainstorming. I was going on a picnic on the Upper West Side and literally was like, why do I have to go to Whole Foods and Zabar's and West Side Market and 300 other places to get the things I want? In San Francisco, we had quite a few kind of very cute provision shops that had everything where we would go to throw a dinner party. And I called Alyssa and I said, this is weird. We're in New York City. You would think there would be a lot of these shops, but I can't really find any. What do you think? And Alyssa said, I love it. But with her background in operations, she said, I think maybe we should think about opening a bar with it. And the idea was born quite quickly. I'll let her kind of take you through the next steps and why it all happened so quickly.
Yeah, so it's been such a whirlwind. I mean, we've been at this for a little, I guess, over 2 years now. I mean, we've been open for about 15 months. We found a place rather quickly up on Hudson Street that we got very excited about. And unfortunately, that space didn't work out, but it led us to gather an entire team and put things together and start really conceptualizing this idea and making it more and more everyday a reality. So once we did that and we had this team in place, we said to each other, like, this is now, or we feel like it's probably never. And the market was a bit in our favor with COVID. Some of the, landlords and spaces, obviously a lot of places going out of business during the pandemic, let us really be able to negotiate deals and understand the the climate of the industry. So we ended up where we are now, and that's kind of how the idea was born. We signed a lease in November of 2021. We started construction in January of 2022, and we opened in May of 2022. So it was really, everyone said to us, you're never going to open on time.
Yeah.
And here we are, we did it. So
the PR firm that we worked with,
it happened pretty quickly. So
the PR firm specifically said, we've never opened a restaurant or a bar on the day that we were given, and we did it. So what happens when your rent starts? You get the doors open.
So let's I want to focus a little bit on the concept of creating the secret cocktail bar. Okay, I know there are a couple other places in the city that have done this, and I've seen them try to take on a more retro feel. Yours is a very kind of cool and kind of new. It doesn't have retro, but some of the cocktails might be. But how did you develop that? Because Lindsay talked about kind of coming up with kind of the front part of it, with kind of the products that you like. How did you guys? What was the cocktail bar always part of it, or was that like, this would be really cool if we did this as well? And then how did you guys then develop that? Because that's obviously a big portion. You've got the cocktails, you got the food. And I know that takes a lot of your time.
Yeah, so I think for us, in terms of the cocktail space and the bar, to be completely honest, with my wine background, we were thinking more of a wine concept in the back to begin with, and we met with a ton of industry people and a couple of meetings that we took with people who have done this before. Said, if you're going to get the liquor license, do the thing and do the cocktails and do the whole thing. Don't just limit yourself to wine. And that's kind of how the cocktail lounge per se started to develop. I also had some bar management experience with Michael Mina and cocktail management and understanding of that world as well. In no means am I ever running a bar have ever run a bar program or have done that. So when we decided what the concept would be, we immediately thought, who can we bring on to bring this to life? And that's kind of how the bar came to be. And then we started to tie these two concepts together to really make it make the spaces speak to each other. And I'll let Lindsay speak a little bit more about this, but we talk a lot about intersection and Pine and Polk, two streets intersecting, me and Lindsay's lives intersecting, East Coast, West Coast, bar and shop. So we talk a lot about that, and we really started to build on the intersection of these two concepts under one roof.
Yeah, I was going to say, we didn't really talk about like what the actual spaces are, and they're meant to both speak to each other and intersect, as Alyssa said, but also kind of live separately in a they complement and contrast each other. So the idea is really like this light, bright shop that has beautiful products and lots of colors and feels very West Coast. And you walk into the bar and it's darker and sexier and feels a bit more New York, maybe, and edgy, and has kind of those vibes going for it. But also is really important. And I think to your point, Adam, like the speakeasies that exist in New York, a lot of them are retro. You have the big brown leather couches and they feel a bit masculine. And it was really important for us to make it clear that this was a female-owned business. I mean, you can see behind me, like we have gold touches everywhere. We worked with a female artist who created some of our walls and painted some of our furniture. It was just really important that the vibes felt like us and gave off a little bit of West Coast and a little bit of East Coast and a little femininity and a little edginess and kind of all of those juxtaposing but complementary things.
So, okay, I'm going to talk about the food and the cocktails now. So and I want both of you to answer. So, I mean, I've had the grilled cheese. I love that. I've had multiple plates and different types of food, and you're one of the few places I'll have cocktails because I'm a big just straight tequila drinker. But when you guys develop these, I know you work with other people to develop them. Are there ones that that you're like, I definitely need this, or are there or do you like all of them, or you're like, okay, well, let's spread it out and diversify? How do you develop the cocktail menu and the food, considering you each have different maybe different tastes, different approaches, and you said you're right and left brain, so obviously you come at things a different angle. How did you guys develop, and is it more personal for you or more about, okay, let's broaden this for our community?
So I'll say, and as Alyssa said, we hired a wonderful bar director, Melissa Brooke, and she really sat with us and listened to what both of us wanted. I am quick to say Alyssa has more cocktail experience than I do, and since we've opened a bar, my cocktail palette has definitely expanded. And I'm grateful for being able to taste really interesting concoctions and delicious cocktails. But a lot of it was how to bring our story to life within the cocktails and within the food program, quite honestly, too, and throwing dinner parties and creating boards and having beautiful plates in front of you. But I think for the cocktails specifically, Melissa listened to us. It's like, how do we integrate some San Francisco elements to it? And there's ingredients and stories and things you'll find. How do we integrate mine and Alyssa's story? How do we integrate a little bit of Melissa's story? Like, there's kind of pieces and things that she really sat with us and listened and took to heart to create this menu. But yes, to answer your question very quickly, like, I would say Alyssa had quite a bit of input onto the cocktails, and I've learned to like a lot more than I did.
I think it's also giving people a cohesive menu. Like we did, Lindsay and I went around town and did our fair share of, tasting and going to different cocktail bars and research development. And, we took away what we liked from certain places, what we didn't like from certain places, also from the San Francisco cocktail scene. And we again said all of that and sat with Melissa for a really long time. And we wanted to create an approachable yet like delicious cocktail menu that if you're not a mezcal drinker, you might drink our mezcal cocktail or one of our mezcal cocktails and love it. And I think that's what Melissa's really good at. And people come in really solely for the cocktails. Like with my wine background, we started really with a larger by the glass list and a really cool bottle list. And I've narrowed it down quite a bit because people come for the cocktails. And the interesting spirits that we have on our back bar too. So,
and we try, I neglected to say that in the shop, about 60 to 80% of the shop is female founded, minority owned brands. We try to bring that ethos into the bar as well. It's important to us what the stories of where a lot of the spirits come from. But yeah, and we recently just updated our menu, and I think we took some of these stories. Like, we realized that people didn't understand the names, or people didn't understand what a specific ingredient or why it was there. And we recently updated the menu and kind of added an about me under each of the cocktails. And it's been really interesting to see how some of the sales of the cocktails have changed and what people might have ordered a lot of before, and now they might be going for something else because they understand it better.
Okay, to continue it along with what just Lindsay was talking about, is let's talk about the front of the store, the Pine and Polk part, because that's the kind of I look around and I'm fascinated. I want to buy a ton of stuff, and I know that that I'm not going on on a picnic or stuff like that, and some of the stuff is fascinating to me, but I just don't know how to. I don't know how to put it into my daily life. I have two kids. I made them grilled cheese for breakfast today. Okay, that's what I did.
That's
so, and one of my daughters was like, "Really?" And I'm like, "It's lunch for breakfast." Anyway, so explain to me though how, like, and a little more. You touched on it, but how you choose everything in there, and what exactly you're going for.
Yeah. So again, like, stories behind each of the brands are important. It's not necessarily about local, though we do support a lot of local brands, but it's how they were found, why they were found, who they were found by. And then it's sort of about discovery. And it's like, how do we discover on behalf of people who are walking into the space? You're making your grilled cheese. How do you make that grilled cheese more interesting? Might add some tomato jam from one of our vendors, or how do you kind of take things to the next level? Or just how do you make a delicious dinner, a delicious snack? It's really about things that aren't necessarily on supermarket shelves, you don't see everywhere. It's funny, it's a different time now, and there are plenty of the brands that we use that target everybody on social media. So there are people who walk in and say, oh, I've seen this on my social media feed, or I've seen this on TikTok or whatever. And people kind of go right for some of those products. But it's just kind of about how to keep it interesting, how to keep your pantry interesting, how to keep your dinner parties interesting. And everything we pick is beautiful and colorful. And again, like, we really wanted to have an interesting, nice story that goes along with our brand ethos.
Yeah, so we say, I don't know if you if you go to our website, or if you go to our shop door, our kind of tagline is unexpected items for your pantry, fridge, and friends, spreads, boards, beers, treats, gluten-free, gluten-full, good for you gluttony. So it's a mouthful, but it's something that we took a lot of time to kind of, in a sense, curate. And it really makes sense for our shop, because some people come in for gifts, some people come in just to grab a seltzer, a special kind of seltzer that you don't find in every grocery market or bodega. And I will admit, Lindsay does, I would say, 99% of the curation for the shop. I work on the craft beers and the ciders for the fridge over there and tie that into the bar. But it's just kind of a fun way for us to play. And we've learned over time that, like, we're listening to the people in the neighborhood who do come in every so often, and listen to what they want, what they like, what they don't like. And we're kind of, like Lindsay said, it's part of the discovery for us and for the people that walk through our doors. So it's kind of a fun thing for us.
I was going to say, the way that the shop products live with the bar, we have an item on our menu that says, see something you liked in the shop, grab it, we'll create a board for you. So that's been a really fun thing for people to do. They walk out from their table, they grab some cheeses, they grab some jams, we help them curate something, kind of make your own board. And it's everything from a savory board to grabbing, we didn't really talk about, but the secret door to the bar is a beautiful shelf of artisanal chocolates. We like to say one bar leads to another. But people do grab chocolate bars. We kind of create a fun sweet board. We've done it all. So we like how they speak to each other in that way too, and people can have their own journey while they're here.
Okay, so let's talk about who's coming in, okay, and the audience that, one, that was in your business plan that you expected, maybe you didn't, and two, who is coming in? Because based on, your surrounding area is a captive audience, but you're pulling people from all over the city. So, talk about kind of who's coming in, if that's kind of who you intended, or how it's evolved, and since you've opened.
Yeah, so I think that in the beginning we had really great PR. We were on a lot of lists. We were getting a lot of action on social media, Instagram, TikTok, and we had a lot of. It was a pretty broad audience that came in. I think over time, not being the new kid on the block anymore in terms of, the lists of new openings and things like that, we've started to see that our real demographic is, I think, in like mid to late 30s. And given the price point of our cocktails and price point of the things that we sell in the shop, that kind of makes sense for us. And that's kind of what we were aiming for as well, in terms of more of a mature cocktail lounge. Where it's not super rowdy. You can go across the street for that to Paul's Casablanca if you want. But we, our liquor license is midnight. We're not a 3 or 4 a.m. bar. And that's kind of what we were aiming for, more of like you make a reservation at a lounge table at a bar seat. It's not like a 3 deep back standing room only kind of place. And I think, our audience right now is someone who wants to come in and get a nice cocktail and sit for a while, or have a pre-dinner or post-dinner drink. And that's kind of what we're seeing. A lot of neighborhood people. So yeah, I think that's kind of the direction we were going in, and what we're seeing as well.
So, I follow your social media, and I go to the website, and the website I think is great, very kind of crisp and clean, and shows a lot of what you guys have spoken about. But in social media, I know there's a difficult balance there with what to show and what not to show, kind of to create your image and your brand, which you guys have developed is a brand and a following. So how does one of you kind of take the lead on that? Do you both kind of come together? Do you incorporate your PR company? How do you develop the social media? Right.
Yeah, so Alyssa and I do work together on it. I do a lot of the posting. It's hard. It's time consuming. I give credit to all of these humans who do this for, a full-time job. When you have another full-time job, it's really, social media is really hard, but to your point, it's important, and it's important to keep engaging. And sometimes time goes by and I'm like, we have to post on social media. We have to talk to the people, who are supporters of us. So, and I think, striking a balance between the bar and the shop has also been an interesting thing. When we first started out, it was, how secretive do we want to be about the bar? How much of a kind of, if sort of thing is it? And we've, I think, did away with that a bit. And sure, it's hidden, but it's not necessarily secret. We want people to know about it. And obviously we want people in the bar, and we need to run a business ultimately. But, I think we try to strike a balance of featuring the products in the shop and what comes in and what's new and who we're partnering with, as well as cocktails in the bar and the menu that's on the in the bar side. We worked with a social media company for a little bit, and ultimately, it's our language and our brand, and we speak it and live it every day. And it made sense for us to kind of take it back on ourselves. I wish I wasn't a 41-year-old who didn't know all the things about social media. I can't say I'm, the best at it, but I think that we make do, and we get the word out there about the things that are important to the brand.
Lindsay doesn't give herself enough credit. She's definitely the one that manages the account and is very clever and witty around her captions and posts. So if there was no Lindsay Weiss, there would be no Pine Polk social media right now.
I found it, and this summer, and to jump off even more, this summer you had a lot of posts about pop-ups. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is where I talk about that you have a brand, you have a following, which I'm very impressed with, and how you guys have developed in really a short period of time. The idea of the pop-ups. Okay. So, this is definitely kind of a trend that's occurred, really, from my view, it's because there's been empty real estate. So what a better way to fill it in? But what you guys have done is a little more different. You've gone out of New York to pop up in kind of specific areas. Was that a natural kind of thing that you guys jumped into? Was it something you had planned? Because I found it kind of fascinating to watch it, and the events that you had over the summer.
Yeah, I think we definitely came into this knowing that we wanted to have partnerships with other people. Alyssa and I, specifically this summer you're talking about, we were out in Utah, about 20 minutes outside of Park City at an Auberge property called Blue Sky. It's a gorgeous property. They get a lot of folks from New York and LA and kind of the main cities who come and visit during the summer. Alyssa and I both have a pre-existing relationship with the GM. I've done some work with Auberge, so we were fortunate enough to have conversations literally right from the get with some of the people we knew about expanding like that and having pop-ups. So yeah, it definitely was part of what we wanted to do when we opened. And for us, it's fun to get outside the city. This specific one, we got to really recreate a bit of the New York City bar in Utah. There was a yurt that we took over on top of a mountain, and the inside of the yurt looked like our bar in New York City, and the outside of the yurt was the Utah version of our bar. And then we were able to pop up the shop in the lobby as well. So again, it had that sort of story to tell, but it was really special to be there. And it's about brand exposure. And we worked with a ton of our brands in the shop to do some gift bags. So it was exposure for them. And it was you talk about our target audience. It was a really great audience who I think was excited to be able to taste our cocktails. Some people had been here, actually. Some people had heard of us. So it was exciting to be able to see that.
It also gave us an interesting, from a business perspective and a brand perspective, potential, thinking around how we can grow, not in a pop-up way, but how we can work with potentially hotel groups in the future, potentially, incorporating the shop, the bar. What is Pine and Polk, and how can we take that out of the current, brick and mortar that we have now? And it continues to let our juices flow around how is the business going to move forward in the future. And we're starting to have those conversations now, and it's really interesting to have done that experience in Utah, and in a different capacity in Aspen back in March, and where that's all going for us in the future. So it's kind of interesting for us to see that too all come together.
So what a perfect time to go to my next question is 5 years from now, where do you hope to see Pine and Polk?
This is the question of the moment.
Crystal ball.
You can punt. You can
it's really, I'm just gonna, speak frankly here. It's a really, really hard question. Thinking back 3 years ago where we were to where we are now, I could never have imagined.
Okay.
And if you asked me that, I wouldn't have told you in this scenario that we would be here, especially going through some personal things, and both of us going through some personal things, moving back to New York, starting this business. 5 years from now with this business, for me, I'm going to answer on my own behalf, and then I can let Lindsay answer. For me, it's about the networking and the people that we meet along the way. And the one person that we meet tomorrow could change our trajectory, from what we thought we would be at in 5 years to something completely different. And I think for both of us, we're at the place in the business where we're having these conversations, and we're having them with a lot of different people. And where is the door going to open? What partnerships can we make? What connections can we keep, in terms of us growing in the best way? I personally don't have a definitive answer to that. I don't think Lindsay does either. I think we're working on that now. And maybe if you come back to us in a couple of months, we might know more. But yeah, it's a tough question to answer. I hope the brand is thriving and existing, and that more people know about it.
Yeah, and I co-sign everything Alyssa just said. And I would say that, a lot of the conversations are around not necessarily just the brick and mortar, but the brand, and like, what is the brand, and how do we utilize the brand in other places, be it a brick and mortar, be it a pop-up, be it a partnership. Alyssa and I we've given birth to the brand, and, a lot of people ask, like, what is it? And we've gotten to the point where the answer is often it's me and Alyssa. Like, it's what we've created and it's what we bring to it. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity for us to continue to tell the story in a lot of different ways.
I'd like to do kind of a rapid fire question thing. I don't really know how it works yet, but I'm going to ask just a few questions for each of you, and just kind of throw out your answer, okay? And then okay, so ready? New York or San Francisco?
New York.
San Francisco.
Favorite cocktail?
Paper plane.
I'm an Adam Sanders kind of gal. Tequila, anything tequila usually.
Bar or lounge seat?
Bar seat always.
And just one that's not really kind of related to what you guys do. Favorite musician?
Oh.
I can't answer that question.
Yeah, that's a big
I literally
question.
cannot answer that question.
Okay.
I pass. Do we get one?
Pass.
We can share our Spotify playlist if we.
I don't know. I've been fascinated by finding new music, really, and through Spotify, and I feel like it's helped kind of my friends all our tastes have expanded.
There's so much music out there. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you both very much for coming on today. I think this has been great. And I'm so happy that you guys were both on. Again, all your information, your Instagram stuff, the location will all be in the notes for the podcast, and anything else. Before we sign off, is there any kind of last things you guys want to add?
I was going to say thank you to you who has, we neglected to say, but you've been an integral part of our business and you've helped us along the way. So thank you for having us and thank you for all your help in making us a success.
Yeah, and just piggybacking on what Lindsay said, Adam, thank you so much. And if anyone's listening that comes to the bar, Lindsay and I didn't discuss this yet, but I'm going to say if you heard about, or if you listen to this podcast, we'll give you 10% off your cocktails at the bar and in the shop. So come on by and support Pine and Polk. And we hope to meet you at PS. So thank you guys.
Well, thank you guys both again. Lindsay, Alyssa are at Pine and Polk. Again, in our notes, you'll see everything. Again, I'm Adam Sanders, and this is Inside R&E. Thank you very much for joining.